Welcome back to 755 is Real. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer for The Athletic, with my co-host, Eric O'Flaherty, who was on the last bullpen of the Braves that was as deep and good as this one, 2010. Right, Eric?
Yeah. 2011 gets talked about a lot, but
Right.
the depth 2010 was deep.
Yeah, you're right, because I'm one that talks about 2010 a lot too, because what you had the historic year, Kimbrel, but people forget the year before you had a rookie Kimbrel who was a setup guy, and you had Billy Wagner closing, and you had Saito and you and Moilo and Venters.
Yep.
It was one other one too. It was I was looking through that. You were really, really deep.
We were deep. I mean, we got 6-7 guys deep, but just having Billy close, and it showed up in the playoffs too. You know, we played the Giants and Billy got hurt.
Yeah.
Craig and Johnny just went off in the postseason until that last game. But yeah, that was a deep one.
I forgot how good Craig was when he came up, when he was a rookie, before he moved into closer role.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the last bullpen as deep as this one. The first kind of health issue they've had at spring training at all, really, to any significant guy, is Luke Jackson had some forearm soreness, which would be more worrisome if he was shut down right now, but he's not. He'd shut him down for a week, but he's pitching again, or he's throwing again.
Yeah.
Threw a bullpen. So I'm not really worried about it, because Snit said he threw a bullpen. And if they'd had to stop in the bullpen, I'd be more worried about it. But now it's a question of whether he can get ready by opening day. But if he's not, it'll be probably 1 week later. So
yeah, whatever.
And that's
it's one of those things you just take your time with. And those guys threw a lot last year. You know, they had that extra month and a half of throwing. You know, it kind of catch up with you. And the other thing is, when you're as deep, you know, if Luke was closing, you might try to have him ready by opening day. But when you're as deep as the Braves are, a guy that meant a lot to the team last year is a little banged up. You just take it easy with him. If he misses a week, it's who cares?
Yeah, a guy who had a sub-2 ERA last year in a lot of appearances.
Yeah.
And it's not even really a big concern, because you can just slot somebody else in until he's ready. I mean, when Darren O'Day is your number 7 or 8 or 9 guy, that's pretty good.
Doing fine.
Yeah. So, wrapping it up, they got 1 week to go. I'm flying back tomorrow for the last week of camp, but
it's crazy.
They're still, it is crazy. I mean, you've played so few games. I'm just concerned there's going to be some injuries around the league, but it was really smart to do the expanded rosters for April. Really smart. Yeah. So you add a couple of pitchers. You know, the Braves are going to start with 6 starters, which I think is also smart, given how long these guys pitched last year, the innings they piled up, given the fact that Charlie's coming back from the broken leg, and Max threw more innings than ever. And Ian had missed a month last year after the All-Star break. I think it's really smart. And some young guys who are going to be in there from day one, they're going to throw more innings than ever if they pitch the whole season. So I think 6-man in this case. I'm not usually for 6-man, but I think in these circumstances, it's a good idea.
I do too. I mean, it's with the short spring training, and you're going to have less off days.
Right, coming out of the gate, no off days. That's a big thing too.
I don't see any reason not to do it, honestly.
Yeah, because usually you got a 1 day off day, right? Like after opening day or after the first series, they're going to play like right out of the chute. You know, they have off day before the home opener, and that's it, though. You got like 14 games, I think, in 15 days, and then not another off day. So, it's going to be a grind right out of the box, but they got the pitching to do it. The Braves, the pitching is just so superior to other teams. You know, in the division, you got the Mets with their really top-heavy rotation. That's the best with that, because the first 3. But for depth, I don't think anybody in the division comes close to matching the Braves for depth, starters and bullpen.
Well, right, and that's why you can do the 6-man and you do not feel bad about it. If you're only 2 deep, you're trying to get, you know, Scherzer and DeGrom pitching as much as possible. But when you're as deep as the Braves, you know, and each guy is pretty reliable, it gives them a chance to feel out a few of the younger guys. I think it's a pretty smart move just to ease everybody back in after that World Series run last year.
And you got, man, I wrote this today. The Braves I can't even remember a time when they had such legitimate, attractive options for those last spots in the rotation, which is usually 2 last spots, but it's going to be 3 of the last spots, so 4, 5, and 6. And they've got some really attractive options, given, you know, what these guys have done before. You got Kyle Wright. We've talked about him a lot of times. I think he's finally at the stage where he's got the mentally, he's ready to do this. I think the World Series appearance is really going to help him. I mean, if you can go out and throw 4 and a third or whatever he did in the World Series, scoreless, you got to feel good about coming in and facing anybody, in April. He should be past any of the mental stuff.
Yeah, he should be. I mean, the only way to tell is when it happens. You take that time off, but I think that's just, you saw it play out in the postseason last year. All the guys that had gotten the experience the year before, a couple guys had some tough breaks, but overall, every time you do that, the more confident you are. And just in general, the deeper you get into your career, your first 2 spring trainings, you're nervous.
Yeah.
By year 5, it's just kind of going through the motions and getting your work in. And especially if you're on the team and you're not trying to make a team, but each time you do it, opening day won't be as nerve-wracking for guys. The first month won't be as nerve-wracking. And if you've had a bad April before, you won't stress it as much. So I would hope that, he's just maturing and getting used to it and able to build on knowing that he can pitch in the league and having good results. And nothing will boost your confidence more than pitching well in the World Series.
And I think you've got Huascar Ynoa. If those 2 guys are 4 or 5 in either order, Ynoa, I think, has got a chip on his shoulder. He's coming back to prove something after last year, after he got off to that incredible start and then did the boneheaded move of breaking his hand, punching a bench, and ruined his season. I mean, he wasn't the same after that. He was left off the postseason roster because he just wasn't the same. He's coming in his good shape, and I think he's got really something. He's going to go out there with something to prove and motivated. There should be no lack of motivation for him this time.
No, because he had a spot locked down.
He was their best pitcher at the time he was hurt. Remember?
Yeah.
Because Max had gotten hurt early, the hamstring. He got 2 IL stints early, and Charlie was starting out slow. So at the time, it was their best pitcher, legitimately. So. Yeah, and then he's forgotten by the time they get to the World Series, So you got him.
It's crazy how fragile that is. He was looking at if he finished that season, he'd have a whole year of forgiveness to stay in the rotation.
Yeah, he was going to be on the All-Star team if he'd kept that up for another month.
He would have to pitch terrible not to be on the team this spring. Yeah. And it just threw him off his rhythm. Coming back, he wasn't the same. But he's not going to be short on confidence, I can tell you that.
So then you've got in the final spot, if those 2 have 2 spots for that 6th spot, man, you can't go wrong, I think, with Spencer Strider, who's kind of caused a buzz in camp because he's a guy that did the incredible feat of 4 minor. He pitched at every minor league affiliate last year. When you start the season in low A and you end it pitching for the Braves in the final weekend of the season. So 5 levels he covered last year. And they considered him. That was a tryout for the postseason roster. He didn't get put on it, but he could have. They only had room for 1, and they put Dylan Lee on that because they wanted, the left-hander. But Spencer Strider has come into camp, really built on that, and impressed a lot. He made a start yesterday, and he's out there throwing triple-digit heat and making it look easy for a guy who's probably 5'11". He's listed at 6 foot, and he's under 200 pounds. Just one of those rare electric arms, man.
Yeah, and it's the craziest thing to me about it is he's doing it in spring training. I mean, if you watch Kimbrel come in, and Kimbrel's kind of he's a thicker build than Strider, but still kind of the same height and electric arm and everything. But Kimbrel would come into camp throwing 92, 93. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't hit that 98, 99 that he gets to until right about opening day, maybe his last appearance of spring. But to see Strider starting a game and doing it, it's crazy. It makes me think about the debate, in sports that athletes are just better now. And I always go back and forth because athletes take such better care of themselves now.
Yeah.
I mean, what if Jordan wasn't drinking? What if Jordan wasn't drinking 30 Bud Lights a night? What if he was getting his sleep and training the way guys do now?
Smoking cigars on the golf course for games.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. My first year in the big leagues, the whole team would be in the sauna drinking beers after the game. I mean, you really can't do much worse to yourself than go dehydrate yourself and drink a bunch of beers right after you've already been out running around, the whole game. And so I think when people compare all this, Strider shows you that guys come into camp and their bodies are in tip-top shape and ready to go. Nobody's using spring training to get ready anymore. And I just laugh when I see the athleticism that guys have now.
Max comes in. He pitched into November last year, by far the most innings. He comes in. He's throwing 96 the other day. He said, "I don't even care what the velo buzz," but that's good to hear that. He's at midseason velo right now.
Yep.
So yeah, Strider, to make his last season even more impressive, that was his first pro year. He hadn't even pitched in pro ball. Picked him out of Clemson. He missed a year at Clemson with TJ. And yeah, it's pretty special to come back from TJ and be throwing like this soon back after. So then, yeah, that last spot, man, you got a choice of him, Tucker Davidson, who looked really good in a couple of starts last year before he got the forearm tightness in his fourth start. Shut him down. That's the guy that also had an amazing feat. He goes like 2 months without pitching at all, makes one rehab start, and then starts a game in the LCS.
Yeah.
So you got him, and you got Muller. So I don't think any of those guys is going to be fine in that sixth spot. I think Tucker Davidson should get it. Probably will with the experience and all that. But you could put Strider in that bullpen to start, man, because you got the extra spot in the pen. I'd put him in there and let him do what he can do, and then because you can always just bump him when the rosters are cut back on May 2nd. Then you send him back down to minors, and that's not going to be enough time where he's going to be fine. You go back in and get stretched out and keep starting down there.
Well, especially if when they do bring him out of the pen, you can never have too many guys down in your pen that can eat 3 innings.
Right. Exactly.
Especially early on when injuries happen, guys aren't ready, starters are going a little shorter, and you get a game that's 8-0. You take Strider and you just bring him in the 6th and let him finish the game and get his work in. If the game's out of hand and you want to see him stretched out, you throw him 3 or 4 innings. And when you send him back down to the minors, you have him in a starting position and keep him stretched out for the rotation. But honestly, man, they have all 3 of those guys, because guy has a bad start, you want to try somebody else. It's tough on them to get sent down or know that if they don't have a good start, they might go down. But from a team perspective, you just ride whatever the hot hand is. The guy has a couple bad starts, try the other guy. And you could just keep doing that.
Yeah, they all got options, obviously. They everybody except Newcomb is going to make the team probably just because he does not have options, and they're going to give him, one more chance at least. And this is the year he's got to do something, though. I think if he starts out slow again this year, I think it's probably it for him with the Braves. So he really needs to go out and do something. Out of options. Probably going to keep him over somebody that deserves that spot more than him based on what he's done in the spring. But, that's just part of the game. Everybody understands that. And Strider, I think the fact that he's still in camp is a good sign for him, because they could have sent him down to minor league camp to be starting and getting stretched out and pitching every 5th day there, but they haven't.
Yeah. Well, it's especially, you got – every team seems to have a reliever throwing 100 now, but there's still not that many starters that are just sitting 98.
Yeah.
Like he's been doing. And looks like he's got a good changeup. His breaking ball looks good. And his fastball seems to have some pretty good life on it too. He's not just lighting up the gun. It's getting on guys. Yeah.
People keep asking me, do you think you see him as a future closer? I'm like, yeah, he could do that role if he wants to.
Yeah.
But you do that after you decide he can't start, not before. Yeah. I mean, Craig Kimbrell, if he could have been a good starter, they would have kept him starting, or had to be a starter if he had 3 or 4 pitches. So
yeah, everybody can be a future closer. Most starters could be a lights out reliever, but the reason they're starters is because they have more value there.
Right. Verlander could have been a hell of a closer.
Same with DeGrom.
He got a lot more value as a starter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the pitching staff this is the best it's looked for me, top to bottom ever. I don't remember a pitching staff being this good. You guys had that bullpen, but your rotation wasn't deep like this one, obviously. So
no, it wasn't.
It's going to be impressive. I speaking of, MLB.com had Cashevitz raked best rotations in MLB. I thought it was interesting. He's got the Mets number 1 because of the first 2 guys, though. I mean, they got some other guys that are really good too. You got DeGrom and Scherzer. I mean, that's arguably the best 1-2 combination in history of Scherzer, and DeGrom stays healthy. Those are 2 big ifs, though. But that's a historic. I shouldn't say history, but recent history at least. That's a historic level 1-2, though.
Well, you could put him up against anybody,
right? Multiple Cy Young stuff, everything. Chris Bassett, Carlos Carrasco, Tawan Walker, all guys that are really good if they stay healthy and make a lot of starts. But he's got them number 1, basically, in the top 2 guys. Brewers, he's got 2. Yeah. Woodruff, Burns, Peralta, Lauer, Hauser, and Ashby are their 6 to pick from.
That's another one, though, that it's about those top 2.
Yeah.
Woodruff and Burns, I get it. I get the ranking, but the Braves are definitely deeper than those 2.
no doubt. Blue Jays, Barrios, Gossman, Ryu, Manoa, who's a stud. He's in their fourth spot, and Kikuchi. Then he's got the White Sox 4 with Lucas Giolito, Lance Lynn, Dylan Cease, Dallas Keuchel, and Michael Kopech. I'm sorry, but he's got the Astros and the White Sox ahead of the Braves, and I don't see that. The Astros, you consider what they had against the Braves. McCullers is hurt right now, so you got the Astros. He's got them 5th with Verlander, Framber, Valdez, Luis Garcia. I can't pronounce Urquidy. I always forget how to pronounce his name. Urquidy, URQ. Yeah. Then
Urquidy, is it?
Yeah. Javier Odorizzi in the 5th spot or 5th and 6th spots. You're not. You're not going to tell me that that's better than the Braves. He's got those Giants 6 with Logan Webb, Carlos Rodon, DeSclafani, Alex Wood in the 4th spot, Alex Cobb. I would argue they should be higher than that. They got the Dodgers 7th with Bueller, Kershaw, Urias, Gonsolin, and Haney. Man, it's just wild to see the Dodgers that low, isn't it? Considering how much money they've spent in the pitching. But that's probably about right with all the question marks there, the age and everything. Braves, he's got 8th with Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson, Kyle Wright, Huascar Ynoa. I'd put the Braves first 3 up against anybody.
Yeah, I don't think Ian gets the respect he deserves.
I agree. He could be 1 or 2 for most teams, Ian Anderson.
He just doesn't strike out. You know, if he put up the exact same numbers but struck out, say 10 per 9, and he'd get a lot more respect. But
off the charts, his postseason numbers.
He's one of those guys you have to watch pitch to respect it and understand how easy it looks most of the time and how in control he looks throughout his starts.
Right. And I would say the only reason you put the Braves down that low is because, there still are questions with Wright and Ynoa. But if you get, like we said, Ynoa pitching like he did last year before he got hurt, and if you get Kyle like we've seen him when he's been good, I think this Braves rotation moves up a lot higher. I think maybe you're pushing top 5 if those 2 guys pitch well and whoever's in that 6th spot,
And it could be by the All-Star break or something to say Kyle Wright lives up to his potential or Miller lives up to his potential or Davidson's having a good go at it. A lot will change. I guess that, if you're a national guy, you wouldn't be sold on a few of these guys having not watched what they're capable of and just looking at the numbers. And I think that's usually kind of how it's done. Yeah.
If you look at Kyle Wright's ERA's career ERA's mid-6s, you're like, okay, what the hell, but we've seen him when he's been really good. And then when he's not, he's usually really bad. So, they got the Braves ahead of the Yankees with Garrett Cole. Then they fall off pretty quickly to Jordan Montgomery, Severino, Cortez, and that's a talent. That's
strange.
That's for a team that spent as much money as them.
Yep.
Yeah. And 10 Phillies with I'd move the Phillies up higher probably with Wheeler and Nola. I think Nola will bounce back from a pretty mediocre year by his standards. Ranger Suarez, Kyle Gibson, and Zach Eflin. I think the Phillies are underrated on this one at 10.
Yeah, I agree. Nola's kind of one bad. It's just the weird thing about baseball is, and it does happen. You have one bad year and that's it. You kind of just stay down there. But most of these guys, for whatever reason, you have a year where you come in, you're off, and have a few bad habits. You have an off season to reset it, and they come back and they're kind of who they were in the past. But I wouldn't expect Nola to keep struggling.
And if you look at his numbers last year, he still had the strikeouts and everything. It just was hit in a few games, had some really bad games, but the stuff didn't change. So I would expect him to bounce back. They also ranked. They haven't done the bullpen rankings yet, but I know where that.
Hey, real quick, David, before we get to the other rankings, can I jump in with some ads?
Oh man, you're jumping in right on me, dude. You're stepping on me.
I'm sorry. I don't want to step. I don't want to tread on you.
Cam.
You got to read it. Okay. You gonna read some blue humor here? Or some
yes. Yes, I am. And before we do that, just want everyone to know that you can find the links to all of our great sponsors in the description here on YouTube. All you have to do is hit that down arrow. It can be mobile, it can be desktop. Everything's there for you guys to access. And there are some terrific deals. One being Roman. And if you go to getroman.com/real, you can save $15 off your first month of ED treatment. And getting started is as simple, again, as going to getroman.com/real to complete an online visit. And look, ED is more common than most people think. In fact, 52% of men between the ages of 40 and 70 will experience some form of ED. Roman Ready is confidence personified, is the self-assurance that comes from knowing you've prepared yourself for the moment when intimacy arrives. And listen, with Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for your ED, all for the comfort and privacy of your home. And it's shipped free with 2-day shipping. You can't beat that. And all you have to do is go to getroman.com/real. That's REAL. And if you do that today, and if you're prescribed, you get $15 off your first month of ED treatment. And to pay for some of this stuff, you might need a job. That's where LinkedIn comes in. And LinkedIn is here to help you connect with people you want to interview faster and for free as well for those who run small businesses. And when I was after I graduated college, I went to another network, worked there for a little bit. But when I was floating around looking for another job, went on LinkedIn and fortunately found this position here at The Athletic, and it has been great working with David and Eric. I know they can't say the same about me, but they're stuck with me. But you can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond the world's largest professional network of over 770 million people. And LinkedIn Jobs help you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/755. LinkedIn.com/real. That's REAL. That's linkedin.com/real to post your job for free. Keep in mind, terms and conditions apply. And once again, all those links are in the description. Make sure to check out our great sponsors.
Man, that was awesome. Dude, I want to apologize for messing up the YouTube thing, read at the top. Here you told me, and then 20 seconds later, I just went right through it.
You're focused on the show. It's good. That's what I'm here for. I'm the safety net.
Man, I screwed up. It's like it's like when intimacy arrives. I mean, sometimes you just not ready.
That will be in the description as well. All right, back to you guys.
When intimacy arrives. I want to say that. Baby, has intimacy arrived? It has arrived. So we were about to do the other one before we were so rudely interrupted by Cam with the ads. The other was the best lineups. And this is also interesting, I thought, because, man, it hasn't been there was a time when you would not have found the Braves anywhere near these things, but they deservedly belong as high or higher than the rank. He's got at number one, got the Dodgers. Tough to argue. Mookie Betts, counting Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, Max Muncy, Will Smith, Justin Turner, Cody Bellinger, Chris Taylor, AJ Pollock. When you got that Taylor dude batting eighth that had the 3-homer game against the Braves in the LCS.
Not a lot of breaks there.
No. So hard to argue that. Braves aren't far behind it, but Blue Jays 2, Springer, Bichette, Guerrero, Teoscar Hernandez, Matt Chapman, Lourdes Gurriel, Cavan Biggio, Danny Jansen, and Tapia. Ramel Tapia at the 9th spot. He's got them at second. Number 3, he's got the White Sox. Tim Anderson, Yon Moncada, Jose Abreu, Eloy Jimenez. If he's healthy, that guy's a monster. Yasmani Grandal, Luis Robert. Oh, God, that's a murderer's row, that first 6. Yeah. Andrew Vaughn, Gavin Sheets, Josh Harrison. There are some guys that can hit some bombs in the middle of that lineup. 4, the Braves. Eddie Rosario. And this is, keep in mind, without Acuna. That changes everything, obviously. Eddie Rosario leading off. Dansby. Don't know if that'll be it. Dansby in the second hole, but that's what he's got. Olsen, Marcell Ozuna, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, Adam Duvall, Travis d'Arnaud, Alex Dickerson. Now, you sub Acuna for Alex Dickerson.
Game changer.
Yeah, that changes a lot. And, it changes a lot. That moves the Braves up to me to pushing the Dodgers for best lineup in baseball, to me.
Yeah.
If you have a healthy Acuna in there and those other guys all stay healthy. So, but then you got 5. He has the Yankees with Rizzo, Judge, Gallo, Stanton, Donaldson hitting 5th, Gleyber Torres, Aaron Hicks, Kenar Falefa. I can't pronounce his name either. I always mess his up. And Higashioka at 9th. They got to drop off the end there.
It seems like the parks are coming into play too. The White
Yep.
Sox hitting in that park, but that's
Yep.
pretty good for the Braves, especially if they're not counting Acuna. Because when you get him back,
Yeah, I mean, you take Mookie Betts or you take the superstar out of another team's lineup and see where they rank.
right?
I mean, he's arguably one of the best 5 players in baseball and one of the best 5 or 10 hitters overall in baseball. If
Yeah,
not higher. Yeah, if he's healthy, he could be in the top 3. I mean, we'll see. We'll see where he is, but that's where he was. That's where he was at when he got hurt last year.
yeah.
You look at his numbers when he got hurt. He was on an MVP pace early last season.
Yeah, and he looks good. I haven't seen him play, but
Yeah.
I've seen the videos of him, and he's not favoring a thing.
No, he's moving great, and I
I'm sure
like
it's
that they're
hard to
being
hold him back.
careful. I
Yeah,
like that they're being careful.
I do too.
I think if they not had some setbacks that some guys have had in recent years, or if they didn't have the depth, they might be tempted to rush him back, because he looks so good. But I think they're being extra careful with this guy. It's just too valuable to have him come back and re-injure that knee. You just cannot do it. You got to make sure. Kind of like how Bobby used to say, if a guy's ready, give him another day.
Yep.
In this case, if he's ready, give him another month.
Yeah, and he's not going to play at 80%.
Right.
When he comes back, he's going for the triple. He's trying to catch the ball in the gap. It's especially being a young guy and as explosive as he is. If it was Chipper and he's getting toward the end of his career,
right,
and Chipper knows how to just manage his body a little bit better and manage his effort. It's kind of like when Bryce Harper came into the league and he had to have teammates tell him, like, hey, man, you got to stop crashing into fences and laying out for balls you can't get to and trying to throw people off from the warning track. And when he toned that down, his overall numbers went up because his body was in a lot better shape.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up Chipper. Remember, he blew his second ACL injury was at Houston. That was well after the All-Star break. That was towards the end of the season, right? And he was back the next spring training. But like Chipper said, when I asked him early on, right after Acuna got hurt, he goes, yeah, but I was 36. You're not worried about, I'm not going to be, making, diving, jumping and all that. He just wanted to get back and keep playing because there was no reason to. Because he had considered retiring that year before he got hurt. He wasn't going to go out on that note. So
he tore his meniscus in spring training one year. Didn't even rehab it.
It's amazing.
It's like, I'm old. I can rake. I don't want to do any rehab games. Just put me out there. And he went deep in the first game back.
I remember him just skipping rehab assignments at the end. He'd get hurt, be on the IL. Chipper comes off the IL tomorrow. Is he going to rehab? No, he'll be in line tonight.
He's ready to go.
Home
like
run
riding the bike for him.
So, yeah, but you're right. Like Acuna, for instance, that play he got hurt on in Miami, he's going to come back and his instincts, he's going to take over and he's going to try to make that play again.
The same
Jumping,
play. Yeah.
Maybe get a little bit of a bad read, make up for it with athleticism, jump and make it kind of. And I hope and I'm sure they will. I mean, they know better than me, but I think they'll have a brace on him when he comes back so that knee cannot move laterally.
Yeah.
Might slow him down a little bit, but it's worth it so that the knee cannot move laterally.
Yeah, and I don't think you can expect him to tone it down. Yeah, I mean, that's just the type of player he is. He's all out. So
yeah.
I would definitely take my time with him.
Yeah. All right, Dustin, get away. So yeah, and that's all good news. Is he looks so good? He's in great shape. He's obviously motivated to get back and continue doing what he was doing last year before he got hurt. And the other one is Ozuna. I mean, Ozuna, what he did aside, because I'm certainly not. We've talked about this before. There are no excuses. There's just no sugarcoating what he did. But I'm just talking about as a baseball player. He's back. He's on this team, and he looks great. And he's motivated. He's in shape. He played winter ball right up through the Caribbean World Series, so he came in better shape than most guys as far as being game ready.
Yeah,
and that's just a huge addition to get him back. He only played 48 games, I think, last year before he was out. So if he gets back and he's at close to the level he was at in 2020, people forget this guy led the league in home runs and RBIs.
Well, he was a force in 2020. I mean, he was part of what took him as far as they went. And did it last year without him. So if you get him back healthy and swinging a hot bat, I mean, he's one of those guys that when he comes up, he's trying to do damage.
Yeah.
So, it changes the feel of the lineup when you got him on deck versus a guy like that's going to take a single to right. You see Ozuna on deck, and you're gonna come see whoever's at the dish.
Yeah, and since his year when he raked and wrecked opposing pitching, Austin Riley has took off, and he had his last breakthrough year last year. So now you're adding him to a lineup that's got an MVP caliber Austin Riley. At least last year, that's what he was. So, and then as much as the Braves are going to miss Freddie Freeman, his presence and all that, the guy you added was every bit as good as Freddie last year. I mean, Matt Olson statistically, defensively, was as good as Freddie last year. So you're not going to have a fall off there probably. And he's right at the peak of his career. His birthday today, I think he's turned 28.
Yeah.
This is a guy that's in the peak of his career, entering the prime of his career. He's just in it. It's going to be, this has got a team. They got people ask me, can this lineup be better than last year? I said, yeah, it can be. But you can't also, you can't just assume that Austin Riley is going to replicate the year he had last year. He was phenomenal. Dansby hit for a ton of power last year. Can he build on that and keep getting better? You need that. Ozzie Albies hit 30 home runs last year. I mean, you had a lot of guys that had big years last year.
Yeah.
Rosario was raking down the stretch. It's going to be nice having Rosario in there from day one because we saw what he could do when he got healthy last year. That's a big, big add. That was the final piece kind of for the lineup, I think, when Alex signed him during camp. That was a big add. They needed to bring back him or Soler.
Yeah.
And his lefty
Soler. I would have liked having Soler, but it's hard to argue with what Rosario did, especially in the postseason. I mean, anytime you see a guy that gets better when the pressure's on, I want him on my team. And that seemed to be what Rosario was. I mean, he just had a knack for that last postseason. So he's a good pickup. And
if you could only have one of those guys, I'd rather have Soler in a DH role. But you got to have Ozuna in the DH role. You can't have Ozuna in the field for the whole year. So Rosario fits better in that respect, in that he's not a great defensive player, but he's not bad. And he can make up for some bad reads, all that, as we saw last year, and make a spectacular catch on a ball that should have been at. But he can make up some ground. That backhanded catch he made in the playoffs,
that was crazy.
That was phenomenal. That saved that game. That was huge.
It saved the game. That's the first time I've been watching baseball and jumped out of my couch, jumped up in the air, because the way he was tracking that ball, it was over his head, and he looked for the fence right before he got there, and I read that as him giving up on it, and then he just threw up that backhanded catch at the last second, kind of jumping. That play was crazy. That changed. I mean, it's nuts to think about it too. If he doesn't catch that ball, maybe they don't win the World Series.
It saved that game probably.
Yeah,
it was huge. It gets overlooked because of the home runs people hit and all that, and what they overcame. But that was huge. That was huge. In addition to his LCS, if he doesn't have the LCS he has, they might not get to the World Series. They probably don't.
Yeah.
There were so many times in that LCS where the offense could look kind of flat, and he just had a huge hit to start him, to ignite him.
That home run hit off the Buehler.
Hit after hit after hit. He was amazing in that LCS. So that was a good pickup. And they got him for 2 years plus an option. So
it's not like Soler select in the postseason either, but I don't think it's, if you had to pick one of those guys, Ozuna kind of has the presence Soler has, maybe not as good of at bats. I was really shocked with how well Soler worked in a bat last year. I just didn't expect it coming from a guy that big with that power, but Ozuna still has that presence. So you got a big right-handed bat, and you kind of need that lefty threat too. So I guess it's the right play.
Yeah, if you can only get one of them. And keep in mind also, they beat the Dodgers without Soler.
Yeah.
So, you're down to the last spots. You got a week left to decide these. They're off today. Then play the Red Sox tomorrow at Fort Myers. And you're going to see a lot of regulars playing down the stretch, get a lot of bats now, because guys don't have many bats or innings, man. Around baseball, you look, there's still guys making their first start. Like Verlander made his first game start today. First start in 2 years. And it looks like he's still in there too. So, but you've got the Braves are trying to do something that nobody has done in baseball, which I think is amazing, really. Since 2000, nobody has repeated as World Series champion. That's how hard it is, man.
Yeah.
It's just how hard it is. The Yankees won 3 in a row, 98 through 2000, and nobody has repeated since then. And when you consider some of the teams that have been, some of the powerhouse teams and pitching staffs, and nobody has found a way to repeat. I mean, the Dodgers, the only one they won was in the short season.
Yeah. And you would have thought with the teams they were rolling out there, I mean, they lost Seager this year. There's some guys. They're a little weaker this year, but you would have thought from 16, 17 on, they would have won at least been pretty close to repeating.
Yep. No doubt. They would argue maybe they would have in the cheating year, the trash can lid year, but hey, you didn't do it. So,
right.
Yeah. And the Red Sox, some of those teams they had, the Giants, it's kind of a one of those quirky things because they did it every other year, for that span, 3 and 5 years, I think it was, which was an amazing run,
10,
but never
12,
repeated.
14. Yeah.
Every even year. So the Braves are going to try to do it. And, as long as the Braves waited, it sounds kind of silly to say they can do it again, but they can do it again. If they stay healthy and get what these guys are capable of, they're right there with the Dodgers in the NL. And, we'll see in the AL who emerges, who stays healthy. But the Braves, if they can keep the key guys healthy and Acuna comes back strong, this team has every bit as good a chance as anybody to win a World Series this year.
They're the favorites to win the division, right? I don't read a lot of that stuff. But
the Mets are behind them with all the money they spent, but the Braves are still favored of the Mets by people that really know.
They should be.
Yeah. As much money as the Mets have spent, my God. You might need to do it this year if the Mets go up to $300 million. But Braves have a huge year this year, and they're going to get attendance is going to spike again this year. Their payroll will probably rise again this year or next year, and you gotta tip your cap to them for finally bringing it up to the level of close to where it should be. I kept saying it should be at 180. Well, it's over 170 now. So it's pretty good. And I expect them to make additions during the season too.
Yeah, they like to keep that little extra cash in their pocket.
Alex always does that. So if they make a couple of ads, they could be right at 180 when the season ends. So depending on how it goes, but. So you go into this final break, and you're still looking like we talked about that rotation. The back of that can't go wrong. I don't think with any of the other possibilities. With I've got my projected. I got Fried, Charlie. I think Fried will probably get opening day. That hasn't been made official yet. This is between Fried and Charlie. I'd go Fried just he won. He was opening day last year. He started Game 6 of the World Series. The clincher, pitched great. And his tenure with the Braves. I mean, Charlie's had the career, obviously, and done everything. But I think Max has been with the Braves, for his whole career since he got healthy after being traded from the Padres. And I think he probably, you could argue, you can't go wrong with either of those guys.
Yeah.
You could do Morton if you wanted to split the right-handers, if that matters, and put the lefty between him and Ian Anderson. I don't know if that matters at all, but if it does, you could do that. But I got Ian third, obviously, Huascar Noah, Tucker, Kyle in some order in the last 6. Then other possibilities, I got Strider and Muller. In the bullpen, we've talked about the core 6 that they've got. The right-handers, you got Kenley, your closer, Colin McHugh. Luke, if he's not ready at opening day, he'll be ready shortly thereafter. Tyler Matson, the lefties, he got as good as any lefties in baseball with Tyler, AJ Minter, and Will Smith now in a setup role from after the year he had closing. Then you got you're going to have 2 more spots or 3 more spots because you're probably going to go with 9 coming out of the gate with a 28-man roster. And I've got Darren O'Day, as long as he's healthy, I think he's going to get one of those spots. Nuke, he's out of options. He's going to get one of those spots probably, whether he deserves it or not, and get a chance to show something. And I've also got Tyler Thornburg, who they signed to a non-guaranteed deal, but he's looked pretty good in his 2 outings in spring. He's looked real good, in fact. It's a guy that's done it, plenty of experience. I got him, and your other possibilities, I got Strider and Muller.
I don't mind the idea of Strider starting in the pen, but you kind of got to see it through if he can. There's not a lot of starters that can throw 100 and go 6, 7 innings. There's a few options in the game that can, but
yeah,
I don't mind using him for April out of the pen as some length out of the bullpen when you get a short start from guys. Because like you're saying, Verlander just made his first start, and season starts in a week.
Yeah, a week from tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't mind that option. I think you got to see it through with Strider as a starter. But either way, I think the one big change as far as the bullpen goes is, and another reason to have some depth is you have the DH now. So you can
totally different. Yeah.
You can, if you have a game you want to put away, you could throw Matzik for 5 outs
Great
and then
point.
he's down tomorrow. It totally changes how you manage a pen when you never have to worry about that pitcher spot coming up.
Yeah. So it could be more valuable than ever to have a guy like a Strider who can go 2 or 3 innings. You don't even have to worry about the rest of the
It
pen.
doesn't even have to hit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just let him finish the game. And there'll be games where you can do that with him too.
And he could also, if he's in the pen, he could be one of your guys that could be an opener because they plan to use that too during this long stretch to start the season.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But that's not going to surprise me if he makes the team in one of either the back of the rotation or back of the bullpen. But we'll see. Catchers, that was decided back when they re-signed Darno to a 2-year extension and then signed Manny Pena in November for a 2-year contract to be the backup. That's what made Langoliers expendable. They did not want to trade Langoliers because they looked at him as the catcher of the future. But the Oakland A's demanded either Harris or Langoliers, and they were not going to get Harris because Harris is going to be they think he's going to be a star. I think he's going to be a superstar. They were not going to trade Harris. So, you got 2 years to find another catcher. You got 2 years for Contreras to either develop, and he looked really good this spring. Hit an Oppo home run yesterday. He's got tons of power. You got 2 years to either develop him or go get another catcher. So you don't worry about that with these two guys signed for 2-year contracts, Darno and Pena.
Yeah, I mean, if you gave up Langoliers for a rental, you might look bad,
Right.
But you got Olsen for quite a while. So I think they made the right move.
And I don't think Alex would have done it if he didn't believe he was going to re-sign Olsen to that extension.
No, he wouldn't.
And I love the fact that they brought in a backup as experienced as Pena and is good throwing out runners and calling games. As a pitcher, that's got to feel good knowing both the guys that are going to be catching you are really good game callers and can lead a staff, experience out the yin yang. Really throwing out guys. Pena's really good.
That's for your backup catcher, you can afford to have a guy that doesn't hit.
Yeah,
but you cannot afford, because you're always going to give that catcher, maybe an at bat, your number one guy. You might give him a bat or something, but the point of it is to not bring him into the game and rest his legs and get him fresh. You cannot afford to have a guy that's not strong defensively backing up your number one guy and costing you games in that role. Because that, for me, that's the one position. I know, some people are saying shortstop, center field, but you cannot sacrifice at catcher defensively. It's just, you just can't do it. And guys that don't know how to call a game, or you have a young guy doing it that comes in and all of a sudden your starter has a blow up, and it can really backfire on you quick. So anytime a team has a really good defensive minded backup catcher, I like it.
And that's why the Braves did not want to go with one of those rookies prospect as the backup catcher playing every fifth day. It wasn't a good arrangement. A guy coming in, both of them needed to keep catching. So that's why he became expendable. But and Pena is, like you said, you could afford to have him not hit. He's got some pop. He hit some home runs last year. Yeah. So you can afford to have a guy hitting 200 when you got this lineup. That's not a problem at all when you're when you got a DH in there. So, the other thing about Contreras, which was really interesting, is he made a start in right field a couple of days ago. First time. He hasn't played in the minor leagues in the outfield, but he played the outfield and center field, in fact, in some of those inter-squad games a couple of years ago in spring training 2.0 at Truist Park. Handled himself well. And the other night he hit a liner in front of him, went back on a ball. I mean, he looks legitimately like he can handle himself out there, which makes him so much more valuable. If you want to bring him up this year, if there's a point where you want to bring up a third catcher as that last spot on the bench, maybe if you could have him in the outfield and not just sitting there on the bench, that's pretty big. That's nice to be able to put a guy in the outfield at your catcher. It's going to help his value now and down the line.
I mean, there's barely anybody that does it.
Yeah.
There's how many utility guys can just jump behind the dish?
Yeah.
If you can find somewhere else to put yourself where you don't have to be a catcher, it's extremely valuable. You barely ever see that.
Yeah. He's as athletic probably as any catcher in the league.
Yeah.
You look at this guy and it's like he is so athletic. He can move.
His brother's a good athlete too.
Yeah. His brother, they might be the two most athletic catchers in the league.
Yeah.
Let's see. Then you got your outfielders is there's still a couple spots that are one spot kind of up in the air there. But your infielders, you got Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, Dansby Swanson. Utility got Orlando Arcia, who you signed last year. You re-signed to I think a 2-year deal. I'd have to look that up. But that's a good pickup. He played well. He's solid, and you can put him in the outfield too, which is nice. But I thought a big pickup for them was Brock Holt, former Red Sox dude. That's a guy that can literally play all over the field, and he was a big part of some good Red Sox teams.
Yeah, and honestly, the most important part of those type of players is what they're like in the clubhouse.
Right.
I mean,
He's
they
great.
come in and contribute, but they're if they're a turd and
Yeah.
not playing much, they can really just kind of kill the vibe. But it seems like you've seen the Braves do it time and time again, but they seem to kind of put that emphasis on a good clubhouse guy, a guy that's going to fit in with the vibe. And I don't see that guy having. I mean, every video I saw him with the Red Sox looked like he was having a pretty good time.
Everybody
likes him. He'll fit right in.
Yeah. In fact, 3 of the guys they've got competing for these backup infield spots, or they're going to stash in AAA, whatever. 3 are like great, acknowledged like great clubhouse guys. Brock Holt, Phil Goslin, Goose, right?
Yep.
And Ryan Goins, who's still really strong defensively. So these are, the chemistry thing was obviously first and foremost with Alex, when deciding between talented guys, obviously, but the chemistry thing is really a decider for him in a lot of these cases. Outfielders, you got Marcell Ozuna, marginal, serviceable outfielder at best. Adam Duvall, Eddie Rosario, Guillermo Heredia, great clubhouse guy, was a huge part of last year's team. Just what he meant to this team, the Energizer Bunny, all that crap, with the swords. He was just a big part of that team, and they had to bring him back. I mean, cutting out him would have been it was just really important, especially the Latin guys. They love him. Everybody loves him, though.
Yeah.
But he's a nonstop chatterbox, and that was a good pickup. Alex Dickerson, who, if you look 2 years ago, he had some really big at bats, some big hits for the Giants. Fell off a little last year when he got more playing time with them, but I think if used properly, he could be a good pickup.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I can't really find too many things to pick at with this team.
Yeah. He's done a good job adding to the bench during camp, or this offseason, late in camp. So that's it. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with those last 2 spots. But really, I mean, we know what this team is about, and we know, they just need to kind of stay at the top of the division or close until they get Acuna back, and I think they will. I think this team with the pitching staff is going to be right up there from the get-go. But there's no need to panic coming out of the box. We've seen that time and time again. I mean, last year's team, if nothing else, everybody can remember last year's team wasn't over 500 until August.
Like St. Louis series is when they started getting going. Over
100 games.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to happen this year, obviously, but just keep that in mind. Everybody, if they were to come out of the gate, because they got a tough road trip coming out after that first homestand. They go to San Diego and LA for 7 games.
Yeah, none of it matters. It's you just got to get going, by the All-Star break and go into the postseason hot, and you can repeat. It's hard not to get wrapped up in all this stuff early on, but the season is so long.
It's going to be nice for them coming out of the gate playing the Reds, because the Reds are not the same Reds as they've been in recent years.
Yeah, they kind of fire sale a little bit.
Yeah, we got Reds and Reds Marlins. That's what I need to look at my schedule, because it got screwed up because we're going to open on the road with the Marlins.
The good thing is, when you're talking about injuries, is you're not really going anywhere. I mean, Cincinnati will probably be not the best weather, but you're not doing that New York, Philly, DC, Colorado, those places where you can be early on. You're playing in that really, really cold weather,
which the Braves have done so many times. Played
so many times
in April or May in Colorado and got snowed out, or played in freezing weather.
Yeah.
Or Chicago, that unbelievably horrible game they played in Chicago in May 4 or 5 years ago, where it was freezing rain sideways. That's the worst conditions I've ever seen a game played in. It was
Colorado was worse. I think it was 2013. We were playing. I think it was 18 degrees outside, or 12
doubleheader, and never got to freezing that day.
Yeah.
But that night in Chicago with the wind on top of the freezing rain, guys came out of the bullpen. They said by the time they got from the bullpen to the mound, they couldn't feel their hand.
Oof.
The guys in the infield literally got together. They had a huddle in the middle of the field and said, "All right, I can't feel my hand." Guys said, if there's a double play situation, just get the out at first, just underhand it. They couldn't feel their hands.
Well, that's looking at it. They open up at home, so they're going to go San Diego, LA, and then Texas. They don't go to the Mets until May, so normally by May the weather's pretty clean there.
Yeah, they got good weather going right off the bat. You got home against, and it's been so nice here lately, Bob. You could have spring training in Atlanta this year. It's been that nice. But you got the Reds for 4, then the Nats for 3. So you should have a good homestand to start before you go out west with no day off, by the way. And you start the next day in San Diego. Yeah, that's what happened with this compressed schedule.
Yeah.
Usually you have an off day after
the first series. Yeah.
After opening day in a lot of places in case there's a rain out. But you got 14 games right out of the chute with no day off, which is you never do that. So you got 7 with the Reds, Nats, and you got 7. You got 4 at San Diego, 3 in LA. Never easy.
No, that's a tough trip.
And then you come home, you finally got an off day before you face the Marlins for 3, then another off day. It's going to be nice to be able to catch your breath there with 2 off days in 4 days after that 14 and 14 to start. Then you got the Cubs at home for 3 before you go on the road playing a dome at Texas. So yeah, they should be really good with the weather earlier for that first month, man. Till you get to May.
Nice.
New York maybe in early May. That could always be. That's hit or miss what you're going to get there. And you got the Brewers at home. You don't have to go up there. And
even just banging out that West Coast trip, while you're still pretty fresh early on in the season, instead of doing it in June or July off of 20 days, those things can really set you off. But the guys are used to getting up early right now.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It won't mess them up too bad.
It's a good point. That's a real good point. If you look at it through the end of May, in fact, I hadn't thought about this, but this might be the best weather situation potentially that they've ever had in recent years, at least.
Yeah.
Because you don't play in anywhere where it could be cold until May 2nd in New York. And it could be nice. You don't know, but it could be cold there. Then not again, because you got the Brewers and Red Sox and Padres all at home. Then you got at Milwaukee. So that's your next one, May 16th, where it could be cold. 3 games there, but that's a dome. So that's not going to be cold there either. Yeah, so forget it. You don't have another cold one then, other than New York. You don't have another cold one potentially at all. Because you're in June by then.
That's one of the hardest things coming out of spring training, and it's 75 every day. And then you go to try to throw in New York and April 2nd, it's 40 degrees.
And they've had a couple of those years where they really had it rough coming out of the break with the weather.
That year that we went to Colorado, we stopped and I think we went to New York first, and then we went Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It was freezing there.
Cold everywhere. Yeah. Pittsburgh.
Then we went to Colorado. It was 25 degrees colder there.
Yeah. Remember they had some snow in Pittsburgh. Yeah. You got the Rockies is not till June, the first week of June. I mean, it could snow in Colorado in May. It has. I've seen snow out, but you should be okay by June there. It should be beautiful by June, early June. So yeah, you're looking good, man, with the weather, which always nice. But and you're not gonna have a whole lot of hot weather too with the early on. So kind of ideal. But yeah, that West Coast trip, I like that. What you pointed out about the body clocks are on that spring training schedule right now, where they're falling asleep early and getting up at 5, 6 in the morning. So
yeah,
you can stay on those
before the game.
You can just stay on those when you go out there. But you got to. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be great to see how this thing plays out and getting 100. I'm just so glad they're going to get 162 in. It's not going to have an asterisk. The guy was 5 home runs shy, but maybe if he. This record or that record, or you're not going to have to worry about any of that. And the Braves are going to be able to. I like the fact that only the first week got canceled, because the Braves were going to open in Miami. I mean, you talk about anticlimactic, going from the World Series to driving across the state and open in Miami. Which they would have probably had a good crowd for game 1 on opening day.
And then nothing.
Game 2 would have been under 10,000 people. That would have sucked. Even for the World Series champions, they wouldn't have drawn in Miami. But instead of you open at home. How cool is that? Huge. You got opening day combined with unveiling the pennant, and then you're going to give your World Series rings in Game 3 on that Sunday or that Saturday. That's a pretty awesome.
That'll be great.
Gonna be a hell of a homestand to start the year. Couldn't have worked out better for the Braves as far as that first weekend banked. And you make those games up. 3 doubleheaders, and the season goes 3 days longer. No big deal. They got the pitching staff to make it up. I hate one of those as a traditional doubleheader where you're going to have or a split doubleheader.
Yeah,
split. Yeah, it's going to be a long day in New York. 2 of them are in New York, 1 in Miami, I think. So we're about to start this thing up. We'll do another of these. I think by the time we get to the next one, the roster we'll at least have an opening day started for sure, and the roster might be set and be ready, but just gear this thing up. then we'll go to two a week once the season starts, 2 or 3. Well, this is a good time to announce this. I think we're going to do 3 a week when the season starts this year. One where we got you guys, you listeners, on board with us, right, Cam?
Yeah. So The Athletic has a feature called Live Rooms, where you who are subscribed to The Athletic are able to interact with David and Eric and ask questions in real time, and both guys will be able to respond to you. So it's a really cool feature. We're working with the product team right now. We're hoping that it's good to go either next week for opening week or opening day week, or it's going to be the week after. Still kind of working with the product team on that, but we will be bringing that to you. You'll have that information. David will be tweeting it. We'll make sure that it's also tweeted from the Athletic Atlanta local account. So if you guys don't follow it, follow that for all of David's great written work and everyone else at the Athletic. You can get access to that. But make sure you guys subscribe to YouTube. Make sure you guys are also subscribed to Apple and Spotify so that you can see when these shows come out and get the notification when we're also doing those live rooms.
All right, that's it then. 7:55 is real. In the meantime, rock chalk.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Let's go.